Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with another action figure review. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for AEW Dynamite on TNT. Specifically, it's the first Dynamite of 2021 and the first night of New Year's Smash. Once again, there's an absolutely stacked card, and both the men's and women's world titles are on the line. Plus a whole lot more, so get excited. But first, if you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more pro wrestling and action figure content. Now, we're headed into my custom dailies place, so for a recap and review, let's take it over to the action figures. Dynamite opens with an 8-man tag team match stemming from last week's attack by the Acclaimed on the Young Bucks. They're squaring off, but this time with SCU and the Hybrid 2 joining the Bucks and Acclaimed respectively. Not gonna lie, this was probably my favorite Max Caster freestyle entrance to date, including a sick burn about Marty Jannetty and some shade thrown at tonight's special guest, Snoop Dogg. Things start off with a massive brawl until the ref gets control of the match. It's a great high-flying affair that ends when Matt Jackson lifts up Jack Evans for a Meltzer driver, only for Nick Jackson to turn around and take out the Acclaimed instead. So, Christopher Daniels does a moonsault off the top rope, turning it into the best Meltzer ever and helping to secure the win. Honestly, my only issue with the match was Chris Jericho's commentary. Between his not-so-subtle references to WWE, constantly messing up words, and screaming over the other announcers, it was all a bit too much. This is the first time I can recall saying that about the Demo God, so hopefully it's the last time too. Afterwards, Frankie Kazarian reminds us of his ultimatum to break up SCU the next time he and Christopher Daniels lose in tag team competition, but he promises not to let that happen. Meanwhile, Daniels turns to the Young Bucks and says SCU will always have their backs. That is until the day they square off with the tag team titles on the line. Jon Moxley comes out for the first time since losing the AEW World Championship back at Full Gear, but he says he's over that. Life's not fair, and complaining about it is a waste of time. This is an unforgiving sport, and sometimes you're on the wrong end of a bad deal. However, that's when you grit your teeth and endure. You face adversity and refuse to back down. So Mox isn't going anywhere. Still, he has zero tolerance for shitty people and should go beat up Kenny and the used car salesman with a crowbar, but he respects the title too much to interfere with another man's destiny and doesn't want to ruin an opportunity that Phoenix spent 13 years fighting for. Moxley is a man of his word though, and promises Omega will never be safe as long as he's around. One day, Kenny will look into the eyes of the devil and realize that he crossed the wrong guy. Dasha asks Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy about Trent's condition. Chuck says it's a torn pec and he'll be out 4 to 5 months. In walks Miro, Kip Sabian, and Penelope Ford. The best man says that sucks for Trent, but it sucks even more for Chuck and Orange because Miro claims Trent was the leader of their group, which puts them on the shelf too. But don't worry, they can be Miro's friend and come do chores at his house. With that, Chuck challenges Miro to a match next week. Miro accepts, but in keeping with the feud, and as a way of making things more interesting, if Chuck loses, he has to serve as Miro's young boy until after the wedding. It's time for a good old-fashioned hoss battle between Jake Hager and Wardlow. Jericho stays on commentary as the rest of Inner Circle watches from the stage. This comes down to Hager's technical amateur wrestling and MMA background versus the raw power game of Wardlow. The latter hits a senton off the top rope, but Hager counters into the triangle choke, almost getting the submission win. In the end, Wardlow hits another sloppy F10 to pick up the victory. The two men bump fists in a show of respect afterwards. Now we'll just have to see how long it lasts. Cameras cut to Private Party backstage. They have gin, but no juice. That's no problem though, as Snoop is in the house with a bottle of his finest. but just as they're about to get to drinking, Matt Hardy shows up with the contracts they had discussed earlier. Mark and Isaiah are still a little uneasy about the 30% management fee, but Matt says it'll be worth it after he turns them into champions. They ensure all the clauses they wanted are included, then sign on the dotted line. Matt gets in one last dig about WWE and third-party platforms, then heads off to see his lawyer. It looks like we're getting a weigh-in rather than the traditional contract signing ahead of Darby Allin's TNT title defense against Brian Cage next week. With Team Taz already in the ring, the champ comes out carrying his brand new championship belt, which looks mostly the same as before, but with a black strap instead of red. Taz complains that Cage shouldn't have to go first, just because he's the challenger, but eventually relents. The machine weighs in at 272 pounds. Darby, on the other hand, is only 170, a difference of more than 100 pounds. Taz starts to make jokes, but Allin interrupts. He says this feud has been 27 years in the making because he's dealt with people like Taz his whole life. With that, he grabs his skateboard and prepares for a fight when suddenly, the lights go out. The icon Sting emerges from the tunnel, and Team Taz goes scurrying as Sting and Darby stare each other down with knowing looks. JR says that MJF has commandeered a camera and takes us backstage to find an irate Jake Hager tearing apart the locker room. Max calms him down with some flattery and by talking up his undefeated MMA record. Hager thanks him, but still wants some space. In case you didn't see it on Dark, Brody Lee Jr. called out Marco Stunt in an epic promo, saying that when he's older, he'll be so much taller than Marco, and implying he's gonna kick his ass. They had to be pulled apart by Cody and Tony Khan himself, so Alex Marvez is with Jurassic Express and asks for Marco's response. Instead, Mr. Funsize says that Jurassic Express are gunning for the AEW Tag Team titles. He's interrupted by FTR, who call him a mascot and ask what he means by "we," since Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus do all the work. Enraged, Marco says he's taking the dinosaur's spot against FTR next week so he can kick both their asses. Well, that'll certainly be interesting. Cody comes out to take on Matt Sydal. His already insane entrance gets even more ridiculous with the addition of Snoop Dogg, who helped remix Cody's theme music. They have a decent TV match, which sees Cody go to the top rope more than normal. Snoop uses Arn Anderson's play card to act like he's coaching, which is funny because he legitimately coaches youth football. When they fight to the outside, Cody misses with a punch and decks Serpentico right in the face. Back in the ring, Sydal goes for a jumping knee, but Cody reverses into the crossroads for the win. Predictably, Chaos Project attacks Cody after the match as Snoop stands there seemingly helpless. Matt Sydal wakes up and takes out both Luther and the Snake Man with a couple of enziguris. Then, out of nowhere, Snoop tells Matt and Cody to hold Serpentico down while he delivers an awkward splash from the top rope. Then Cody counts the 3 for a ceremonial victory. Okay, the splash wasn't great, but you know what? That was entertaining as hell. If you're going to bring in a celebrity guest star, then use them in something fun like this. Compare what AEW did here with how WWE used their legends on Raw this week. Enough said. The terrifying Abaddon crawls out from the tunnel to take on Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. During the champ's entrance, Abaddon attacks Shida while she does her signature pose on stage. They make it to the ring so the ref can call for the bell. Like the monster that she is, Abaddon no-sells most of Shida's offense and keeps trying to bite her throughout the match. She counters a running knee by sinking her teeth into Shida's thigh, then drags the champ under the ring when JR tries to throw it to his famous picture-in-picture. So they stay with the action until referee Bryce Remsburg can retrieve the competitors. Abaddon emerges with a mouthful of blood while Shida crawls out with her neck covered in red. During the eventual commercial break, Abaddon continues to dominate. However, when they return, Shida makes a valiant comeback and finally manages to put the monster away with a Tamashii to retain her title. Speaking of women's titles, Ty Conti will challenge Serena Deeb for the NWA Women's title next week. She cuts a promo backstage with her best friend Anna Jay and the Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Reynolds. Ty says that she respects Serena, but she's coming for that championship. After all, she's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu and a black belt in judo. Plus, she won't be alone. Anna Jay confirms that the Dark Order will be ringside to support the new NWA Women's Champion. In the main event, Rey Fenix challenges for the AEW World Championship. During his entrance, Pac says that although Death Triangle normally moves as one, tonight Fenix will end Omega's collecting days alone. Next, Justin Roberts is here with our Kenny Omega fun facts for the evening. In 2020, he had more wins than anyone else in AEW, and unlike Jon Moxley, went undefeated in singles competition. He has held the title for only 35 days, yet is already considered by many to be the greatest AEW World Champion of all time. His 2017 New Japan match with Okada was just voted the greatest in Wrestle Kingdom history. And his plans tonight include winning, then hosting the debut of 2 Point Show on the AEW Games YouTube channel, immediately following Dynamite. You can watch it anywhere, from Texas to Montana, and from California to North Carolina, which doesn't compare to Kenny's hometown of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, eliciting a cheer from Jericho. These two put on exactly the kind of incredible, fast-paced spot fest that people have come to expect. My favorite moment was when Kenny hit a V-trigger, but Fenix no-sold it and immediately kipped up into an enziguri. They do so many obscure moves that even Excalibur's encyclopedic knowledge is put to the test. After a few more V-triggers, Kenny hits a Tiger Driver and a One-Winged Angel to retain his AEW Championship. The Invisible Hand Don Callis grabs a mic and tells the cameras to cut to backstage, where Eddie Kingston and his family are beating down Pac and Pentagon. Callis turns back to Fenix and says they warned him that his friends wouldn't be there to save him. Then, he tells Kenny to hit another One-Winged Angel. Suddenly, Jon Moxley runs out with a barbed wire baseball bat. He nails Omega in the stomach and chases off Callis. Then, from out of nowhere, the Impact Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers, appear and deliver a magic killer to Mox. The crowd chants "Too Sweet" as commentary, including Jericho, freaks out about the invasion. They hold down Moxley as Kenny smashes the baseball bat across his back over and over. The Varsity Blondes have seen enough and try to make the save, but they're immediately taken out. A parade of AEW Dark talent, including the Captain Shawn Dean, Ryzen, and Fuego del Sol, also try to help unsuccessfully. Big Luke Gallows even puts Fuego through a table for his troubles. The Young Bucks run out and try to talk some sense into their former New Japan stablemates, but when the Varsity Blondes grab Kenny, the Bucks superkick them in the face. Omega gives the Too Sweet hand gesture, followed eagerly by Gallows and Anderson, but the Bucks hesitate. Finally, they give in and throw up their hands as well. Holy shit, the Bullet Club is back! They just ripped a page straight out of the NWO playbook and stunned the wrestling world. The camera slowly zooms in on all 5 hands together for the first time in years as the show goes off the air. Oh my god, that just happened. How in the hell is AEW this consistently incredible? Seriously, it's such an amazing show, week in and week out, that it's hard to remember that pro wrestling always used to be this captivating, especially after years of being force-fed mediocrity by WWE. On any given episode of Dynamite, there isn't a single dull moment across 2 hours of TV. At worst, there's something that isn't for you, but it's almost always followed by something right up your alley. Everything makes sense, and it flows naturally from segment to segment. In my opinion, AEW creates art with their weekly television product. So yeah, in case you couldn't tell, I thought this show was fantastic as always, and well worth the watch. Alright, that'll do it for Night 1 of New Year's Smash. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I'll be back next Thursday with my action figure review for Night 2 of New Year's Smash. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter at PSUOptimus, or see all my best figure photography over on Instagram at WrestlingOptimus. If you haven't seen my review of the Brody Lee tribute episode of Dynamite, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.